The Battle of Thebes occurred between Alexander the Great and the Greek city-state of Thebes in 335 BC, just outside and in the city proper in Boeotia. Directed against the Macedonians. The Cadmea, the citadel that was on a hill in Thebes, was held by a Macedonian garrison. It was here that the Thebans were intent upon attacking. To this end, they murdered 2 Macedonian officers who had been wandering the city and proclaimed their independence from Macedonia. The passage details Alexander the Great's swift and strategic response to the revolt of Thebes during his reign. Despite the precarious position he found himself in, without an army stationed in southern Greece to maintain control, he quickly turned the situation to his advantage. Alexander's ability to traverse over 300 miles in just 2 weeks, arriving in Thessaly within 7 days and Boeotia by the 2nd week, showcases his remarkable military discipline and urgency. The element of surprise was crucial, as he managed to approach Thebes undetected, even passing through the formidable Thermopylae Pass unnoticed. This strategic maneuver left the Thebans in disbelief, suspecting it might be Antipater rather than Alexander himself, underscoring the sheer audacity and effectiveness of his campaign. As Alexander reached Boeotia, many cities quickly abandoned the cause of Greek independence, leaving Thebes isolated to face the Macedonian king alone. Athens, under the leadership of Demosthenes, an unwavering critic of Philip, condemned Macedonian dominance once again. Although Athens voted to support Thebes by supplying weapons, they refrained from committing their forces, opting instead to wait and see how events unfolded. Similarly, Sparta sent troops as far as the Isthmus of Corinth, but stopped short of directly challenging Alexander. Despite being forsaken by potential allies, the Theban assembly rallied with determination, enthusiastically choosing to go to war. They boldly defied Alexander and his seasoned army stationed just beyond their gates. Unwilling to destroy the city outright, Alexander moved cautiously. He initially set up camp some distance from the city walls, aiming to deter the rebels without a direct assault. He offered relatively mild terms for surrender, the handover of Phoenix and Prothites, the leaders of the rebellion, while sparing all other citizens. In response, the Thebans brazenly demanded that Alexander surrender Antipater and Philotas to them instead. Meanwhile, the Cadmea citadel within Thebes, where Alexander's garrison, led by Philotas, was stationed, had fortified itself against the Theban forces occupying the outer city. In retaliation, the Thebans constructed an array of defensive works surrounding the citadel, and erected additional palisades to secure the city's perimeter. After 3 days of preparation, Alexander organized his forces into 3 divisions. The first division launched an assault on the Theban palisades. The second formed a line to engage the Theban infantry, and the third remained in reserve, ready to fill gaps in the line and exploit any opportunities that arose. In their defense, the Thebans took drastic measures, even emancipating their slaves and positioning them to face the Macedonian attack at the wall. The Theban cavalry was stationed within the palisades, while the citizens braced for an all-out struggle. Resolute in their determination, the Thebans prepared to fight to the last man, placing their women and children in the city's temples for protection. As the assault began, the Thebans fought with desperate ferocity, driven by the fear of losing their homes, families, and everything they held dear. The battle remained evenly matched for a time, but Alexander's strategic use of his reserves eventually tipped the scales. Spotting a critical lapse in the Theban defense, Alexander noticed that one of their gates had been left unguarded. Seizing the moment, he ordered Perdiccas and his troops to storm the gate and penetrate the city. Realizing that the outer defenses were breached, the Thebans fell back into the city. However, their retreat was cut off when Philotas's garrison burst out of the citadel, encircling the Theban forces and bringing the fierce contest to an end. Alexander exacted harsh punishment on the Thebans for their rebellion. 30,000 citizens were sold into slavery, while 6,000 were killed in the final stages of the fighting. The city itself was utterly destroyed, burned to the ground, with only a few structures left untouched. These included the temples, the Cadme citadel, and the house of the poet Pindar. Alexander spared Pindar's home out of respect and gratitude for the poet's verses that had once praised his ancestor, Alexander I of Macedon. The destruction of Thebes sent shockwaves through Greece, its impact as far-reaching as an earthquake. The violent end of the city prompted swift reactions throughout the region, including the execution of anti-Macedonian demagogues and the suppression of revolts before they could even take shape. With Thebes subdued, Alexander turned his attention to Athens, a city that had remained detached despite its rumored role in encouraging the Thebans and other Greek city-states to rise against Macedon. In response, Alexander demanded that Athens surrender 10 of its strategoi who had opposed Macedonian interests. However, the intervention of an Athenian statesman named Demades changed the course of events. Through his persuasive efforts, Demades managed to convince Alexander to show leniency toward the city, averting further bloodshed.